Hello everybody, this is A7X Fan Ben, and this is episode 4 of the collection review series. Today I'm going to be reviewing the French Crew. So we'll start off with these from Crimson Coast. This was the set that the French were introduced in. This is just the general extra action crew. One of the best abilities in the game for 5 points. This guy gives the SAT, same action twice ability, but then he also gives +1 to gun rolls against English ships, which is probably a waste of 2 points, but if you know you'll be facing English, it's not bad. The collection review for the crew series is going to be kind of sped up compared to the ships, because a lot of the crew from different factions repeat over time. But this guy is kind of interesting. I've never really used crew like this. He could be good in a larger game if you don't know whether you might need like a cannoneer or a shipwright or helmsman or something like that. It is nice that he doesn't take up cargo space after he's revealed, but you're kind of spending an extra point essentially on whatever it is you're going to need. He's a flexible crew, but it's kind of a tough one to use because oftentimes you already know you're going to need a helmsman more than a cannoneer, for example. This guy, he's the canceller that the French have, so the cancel ability is one of the best in the entire game. And then he showed up, we'll see him soon in a couple later sets as well, because there's a few different versions of him. This is the French ZOLR +5 crew, so he gives you 5 points to your build total. So definitely one of the best crew in the game, but probably shouldn't have been released because it's caused a lot of confusion, and it's kind of a weird way to almost break the game if you have this crew and your opponent doesn't. Guy LaPlante. This guy has cool artwork. He's got like the dual swords action going on, but he's just like Woodes Rogers from the English. He has the same abilities as Woodes Rogers. The abilities don't really complement each other, and neither of them are super useful. Amquai is not that useful either. Usually it's easy to go around terrain because the official rules call that you can't string terrain together in like chains and stuff, which is really fun to do, but if you're playing by the official rules, it's pretty easy to avoid it. Jordan Dumas is captain and reroll, so this is one of the best ability combos in the game. 2 really good abilities for 1 cargo space for 6 points. He also has really cool artwork. He looks kind of crazed. He's ready to board. He looks pretty intense. I've used him, especially when my collection was smaller, I use him on the same ship as this guy, because then you can have SAT with reroll, and you have a captain too, so it's a really great combo for any gunship. This guy's a Marine. I think this ability, like I said in the English crew video, I think it should cost 5 points as a base, but therefore I don't usually use Marines that much. And if Musketeers costed 2 points, Marines could easily cost 4, but costs are a little high for both those crew. This is the other version of the guy we just saw on this page. So a couple sets later they redid him as a Fleet Admiral, which is a really good ability in larger games. We saw this in the English crew video as well. So you're probably not going to want to spend 6 points in like a 40-point game on an ability where you have to roll a 6, so you're only going to get it like once or twice in the game maybe. If that, you might never get it in the entire game. But in a bigger or larger game, they can be quite good. So I've called these AAs, which is Admiral's Action ability. Khalid Youssef. This is an ability that usually shows up on ships and not crew. So if you want this ability, it's not always that hard to find a decent gold runner with it. The problem here is you expend a cargo space getting this guy, and then the ability is decent, but for 3 points and wasting a whole cargo space on him, it's usually not worth using him. Armas just has the general reroll ability, which is good. It can help with all sorts of different stuff. Porthos. I think this is the set where they started making +1 to boarding rolls 4 points instead of 3 or 2, which is pretty much absurd. The ability is really only worth 2 points. It's one of my least favorite abilities in the game, partly because of this strange cost increase. Athos. These are like the 3 Musketeers or whatever. This section. Athos is a Marine as well. And then DR Tegnan, he has the S-board ability, which is okay. I think it should have been 4 points. You can see the ability. The boarded ship may not use any boarding bonuses. That does not include the other ship's mast count. So that's not actually a bonus. It's just like the base that the ship starts at. A bonus would be like +1 to boarding rolls or something like that. This is the guy, I think I talked about him a tiny bit in the French ships video. He links to the geography, which is a decent ship for him because it's pretty fast, and then they link to each other. His ability, as I think I talked about in the English crew video, it's tough to use it unless there's like a ton of islands and the game is going to last a long time. Godiva, here's the reroll crew, limit ransom, really great crew, especially if you're not using the +5 limit ransom crew. You'll probably want to use one of these instead. This one's not quite as, overpowered or game breaking. Nedlands, this is one of the worst French crew in the entire game. So he gets a double boarding bonus, but the odds of you boarding a sea monster or a submarine are extremely low. And even if you do, he's just completely not worth the points. So he's one of the worst. He's probably one of the most useless crew in the entire game, not just French crew. This is the other version of Dumas. We saw him earlier. He looks pretty much just as crazy as before. His flavor text is pretty interesting too, if I remember. So here he looks ready to roll once again. This one's not quite as good because the French don't need other crews of other nationalities that much as like a minor faction or the Cursed might. They already have a lot of good name crew as we've seen and we'll keep seeing here. But it's not a bad little combo to combine it with reroll. This guy is actually related to a pirate crew, which it talks about in his flavor text. It's kind of interesting. Here he's not too useful because the French barely have any sea monsters. I think they only have 2. So it would be better to use him in like a cursed fleet or something like that, or maybe a pirate fleet where there's going to be more sea monsters available. This is one of my favorite crew in the game actually, and he's similar. I always thought this was a girl because I don't know. I think this or the other version of Flanoir that you don't see the crew for was my first version, but this is a really interesting crew because you get parley and reroll for just 4 points, which is a great deal. Those are 2 of the better abilities, and they're both pretty fairly costed. Especially parley is kind of maybe even undercosted, maybe cheaper than it should be. The loyal France keyword just means you need to have at least one other like French game piece in your fleet, which is extremely easy because you'll probably be playing faction pure with the French, or maybe he's probably going to be on a French ship or something like that. This is one of my favorite combos for a gunship or a gold runner because you could combine it with like an extra action or same action twice crew and then get the reroll on that die roll. And then the parley ability can help as a defensive measure for a gold ship, or if you have a gunship and you have parley, it's going to make you like temporarily almost invincible, at least from cannon fire. So it's a really interesting crew to use. I would highly recommend trying to figure out like combos and strategies to use Flanoir. Arzor, he has 2 versions. The other version is far better. This one I don't think I've really used at all. It has an interesting boarding ability, but it's definitely not worth paying 5 points for very much. This guy is good. He has captain and then S-board. So this is good if you have like a ship that's good at boarding. Maybe combine it with a +1 to boarding rolls crew, something like that. Or maybe a switchblade like the Saber, which we saw in the French ships video. So here's an example of a Marine that costs 5 points, which I think is about right. He only gets there though because of the loyal hostile keywords, which is kind of a weird way to cut costs. Hostile England mean you can't have any English stuff in your fleet. So the loyal keyword is really easy to get around because you're probably going to have something of the same nationality in your fleet. But the hostile keyword can be kind of limiting, especially it says like hostile pirate, because the pirates are the most popular faction in the game. But here's the other version of the Plante. This artwork's not as good as this first version. He's actually the same crew as Jordan, exact same abilities. And here's Aristide. This is one of the best abilities in the entire game. So this is a game-winning ability. It's won me multiple games. It's one of the most game-changing abilities in the game. and it should probably cost 4 or 5 points at least. And then there's also the +1 gold, which is also really good. And you can stack that ability with this, since they're technically different abilities. You can stack those on the same ship to get +3 gold. Arathiel, this was their original stat captain. So just like Captain Blackheart and some of the other famous like sacrificial captains, this guy combines two of the best abilities in the game for just 5 points. So he's pretty much a must-have crew if you like playing the French a lot. This is like a doctor crew, which I haven't used much. I don't think they're too popular. So a lot of times you can get this ship's crew cannot be eliminated unless she sinks. That's a different ability, and that often comes at like 4 points if it comes with another ability. So this ability probably should have costed 3 or 4 points. Probably 4, I guess. But this guy's really good. He gives the World Hater ability for 4 points, so +1 to cannon rolls against non-French ships. So he's kind of been a staple of my French fleets for a while since I acquired him. Good offensive weapon. Al Ra, this is one of those weird crew. I explained the ruling in the English crew video. I haven't really used them very much, but they can be good in like specific situations. Alright, this guy is interesting because he has the black mark keyword in addition to reroll. So black mark basically just means that when you declare him to be cursed, you can declare the crew with black mark to be cursed at the beginning of the game, and then that makes the ship that he's on cursed as well. And then cursed crew can now use their abilities on that ship. And then since the nationality actually changes to cursed, you wouldn't be able to use other French crew on that ship as well unless another ability allowed it. So he's a really good. If you don't have to use the black mark keyword. You can activate it if you want to, but he's a really good weapon for the cursed actually, because they don't really have reroll crew, and it also gives them access to French ships through the black mark keyword. So it's kind of confusing and it's a little weird. I haven't used it much, but it can be a good way of making cursed more viable because they're not a very good faction for the most part. Pure Aeronax. This guy has an ability. It's pretty situational, but if you see your opponent has submarines or knows that they might use them or sea monsters, he could be a good crew to take along. And he links to all French ships, which is nice. Alright, this one I'm going to take out because this has 2 crew on it, but they're both French and they're both worth talking about. So Leander Arnaud, this is one of my favorite like crew for 2-vers. It's very underrated. I haven't really heard people talk about this card very much, either of the crew. So this is an ability that it would be nice if it was 4 points, but it's pretty powerful. The tough part is getting enough crew on the ship and then still having cargo space left over to really maximize how much gold you take. So oftentimes the ship's not going to have more than about 5 cargoes. Then if you combine this with a captain and a helmsman, you'd only have 2 spaces left. And then at that point, a regular boarding party wouldn't cost any points to win, and then you would just get 1 coin. So then you could just board them a second time or something like that. So here I would recommend trying to get at least 3 cargo spaces open with a crew like this. He's kind of tough to use, but it's pretty fun if you can get a good combo with him. And then on the other side, Cartier, he has +1 to boarding rolls, and then the extra action ability, which is a fantastic ability. Like we saw with their first crew in this video, one of the better abilities in the entire game. So he's pretty expensive, but he's worth all the points pretty much. So he would be good on like a monster gunship to make it a lot more effective. And here we have Vidal. This is a decent ability. I don't usually pay for it in crew. Once in a while it's on ships, which is nice if it's built in as the ship ability. And then at least one unique treasure has this ability too, but having it on a crew is still a decent option though. Alright, Capitaine Arazur. So we saw him, his first version here. And then this version is just like Arathiel, the sack captain, but then I don't know why, but for some reason he costs 1 more point despite having the loyal keyword, which sometimes decreases the point cost of a crew. Usually only when it has hostile and loyal, but so he should be 5 points, but of course stackability has been underpriced since the game began. It probably should have been 4 or 5 points or more when it came out, but it's far too late for that. This is the other version of Lenoir, the third version. So similar to the first one, he has the canceller ability here, but now since the loyal and hostile keywords are in play, that shaves a point off his cost, so now he only costs 4 points. So this is the cheapest canceller in the game, and therefore one of the best crew that you can have, pretty much. I've used this version a ton. And if you're playing the French and you're not worried about the English being in your fleet, there's no reason not to use this one instead of the other one, because then you save a point for the same ability. And then last but not least, Father Doucette, just like the other Doctor crew, basically with the loyal keyword as well. So not too useful, but. So that concludes episode 4 of the collection review series. This was French crew. You can see Spanish crew. First I'll do Spanish ships next. So thanks for tuning in. So long for now.